So let's talk about a term you've probably heard thrown around, but maybe you're not totally sure what it means: habeas corpus. Now, this isn't some dusty old legal phrase. No, this is one of the most powerful, most fundamental safeguards of personal freedom ever created. We're going to unpack exactly why it's so important. This quote right here, it gets right to the heart of it. Think of habeas corpus as justice constantly keeping a watchful eye on authority. It's the legal tool that forces the government to prove it has a real, legitimate reason to lock someone up. It's a constant, necessary check on power. All right, so to really get the solution, we have to first wrap our heads around the problem it's designed to solve. And that problem is the immense, almost absolute power of the state to take away your freedom. I mean, think about it. Imprisonment is the ultimate flex of state control. It's not just about putting someone in a cell. It's the complete subjection of a person to the government's authority. And an act that serious, well, it demands the highest possible level of legal justification. Habeas corpus is the tool that makes sure that justification has to happen. And this is where we see a really crucial difference. On the one hand, you have lawful detention. That's when the state's power is tied directly to legitimacy. It's following the rules, it has a valid reason. But then you have unlawful detention. That's when that connection breaks. Maybe it's a mistake, maybe it's an abuse of power, but this is the exact moment when power becomes detached from the law. And that is the injustice the writ exists to fix. So the big question is, how do you challenge that power when it goes off the rails? Well, you do it with a concept so important, so foundational, that it's known as the Great Writ. And trust me, that name is not an exaggeration. For centuries, this was the #1 defense people had against the absolute power of kings. And today, it's a universal shield against any kind of arbitrary government. You know what makes it so great? Its stunning simplicity and its incredible power. It applies to every single person, period. Now, this right isn't just some ordinary law. In places like the United States, it is baked right into the Constitution itself. Just look at the suspension clause. It says this right can only be taken away in the most extreme situations imaginable, like a rebellion or an invasion. That tells you everything you need to know about how vital it is. It's not a privilege the government gives you. It is a right you have simply by being a person. Habeas corpus is Latin. It literally means you shall have the body, and its command is just as literal. It forces the state to physically bring the person they're holding into a courtroom. This is such a brilliant concept because it prevents a person from becoming just a file number or a case name. No, the living, breathing individual, the body, must be presented before the eyes of justice. You gotta love this metaphor. The writ is the key that empowers a prisoner to challenge their own imprisonment. It's not about waiting for a hero to swoop in and save them. It's about recognizing that the individual themselves is the agent of their own freedom, giving them the power to use the law to unlock the cell door from the inside. All right, so we've got the what and the why. So now for the how. How does this key actually turn the lock in the real world? This path to justice has 4 really clear steps. It all starts with the petition, which is how a detained person finds their voice. That petition then leads to a hearing, which is basically a showdown between freedom and power. Then comes the examination, where a judge puts the state's reasons under a microscope. And finally, if the detention is found to be unlawful, you get the relief, and that means freedom. Let's just zoom in on that first step for a second. The petition is so much more than a piece of paper. It's an incredible act of personal agency. It's the moment when a person who's been silenced and held by the state reclaims their voice and forces the entire system to stop and listen. And this, right here, is where the tables completely turn. At that hearing, the person in custody doesn't have to prove they're innocent. Oh no. Instead, the state, the government, has to prove that its decision to imprison them is lawful. That is a profound flip of the power dynamic. The very same authority that locked them up now has to stand in court and justify itself. And all of this brings us to a much bigger, more philosophical point. This whole legal tool, it isn't just about getting out of jail. It's actually about defining the very nature of what it means to live in a free society. This line is just so powerful. Authority must speak, and silence becomes evidence of tyranny. In any society that truly believes in the rule of law, power cannot be silent. It must explain itself. It must give reasons. Because when the state refuses to justify its actions, well, that silence is basically a confession of its own wrongdoing. And that leads us to this core idea. Liberty isn't just chaos or the absence of rules. Liberty is the space that is created the very moment that power is forced to explain itself with reason and with law. And habeas corpus? That is the tool that carves out that essential, life-giving space. So when you boil it all down, what's the whole point of the Great Writ? It's here to discipline power, not to destroy it. It's here to make questioning authority a normal, healthy part of our system. It's here to make damn sure that punishment follows proof and never, ever comes before it. And ultimately, it stands as the final guardian of the rule of law itself. And that really leaves us with one final thought to carry with us. The Great Writ is our mechanism for asking the toughest questions to the most powerful people. And it's a vital reminder that in a society that's truly free, the questions we demand of power are every bit as important as the answers we receive.